We have Dennis on with Dr. Mari and I today, and Dennis was telling us that he had an experience with his siblings and he doesn't feel like he matters. And I think that this is a very valuable question and probably a really in-depth conversation about the fact of, does our very existence matter at all to anybody but ourselves or other people? And if so, why? So Dennis, if you would give us a little bit more background, and then I'd like Dr. Mari to dig in as she was before I hit the record button, that would be great.
Sure. As I grew up, my parents marginalized me. I was the whipping boy. And so basically when I left, I was on my own at 17, 18, never could make the right choice, if you will. And what's interesting is that as, I've gotten older, there is no animosity between my sisters and myself, but there's also no relationship. There's like nothing. We can actually go a whole year without even talking.
Do you want a relationship with your sisters?
I don't know. I mean, there's not much of anything there. We don't have anything in common.
But do you miss the love and the companionship, or do you think it's just an idea?
I think it's just an idea.
Because you've never had a relationship with them before?
No, it's like I grew up with them. We were in the same household, mostly. I mean, my eldest sister, she, was able to get out of the house and get to college when I was like 10. So she missed a lot of the fun fireworks. But no, I mean, I've been without it for so long, I don't even fantasize that it's something that exists.
Did you ever fantasize that you had a relationship with them?
Yeah, a long time ago.
I was going to say, what's interesting is if you, Dennis, will share the experiment that you did. I mean, at the time, you might not have saw it as an experiment, but it definitely was one with your siblings.
What I noticed was after I had gotten out of the Marines, I went home. I was always calling my sister, seeing, hey, what's up? That type of thing, trying to maintain something. Then I noticed that the phone calls were going one way. And so I decided to, okay, well, I'm not going to call him for a month and let's see what happens. And that 1 month turned into 2, which turned into 3, which turned into 4, and I just didn't hear anything from him. And so basically, I ended up moving away from home to different parts of the country, and the amount of communication was the same. So, and it was to the point when I was living relatively close, within driving distance. And what would happen is they would have family gatherings and birthday parties and whatever, and I wouldn't even be told about it.
That would really hurt anyone's feelings, especially if there wasn't a rift or a history of some sort of a fight or a problem or something like that. It would definitely make you feel as if you didn't matter. So, Dr. Mari, how do you deal with something like that? Because I think that what I'm hearing Dennis say is nobody put in any effort, but I could always say, and sorry, I'm going to sort of ruin your experiment for a second here, and you guys can call me out if you'd like, but you did an experiment to see what they would do, but you also didn't do anything either, right? And so I'm sort of throwing this all at Dr. Mari at once, and I guess my question is when you do an experiment like that and you're sitting in expectation, or maybe you're just sitting in a state of idle awareness, right? And you are saying, is he repeating over and over in his head, I don't matter, I don't matter, I don't matter, because he felt like he didn't matter when he was younger. And so obviously he's relating it to this experience. Or is there something that he could have done to put himself out there and put the effort in to try to see if he could relate to them and see if there was anything there and really find out that he did matter?
Well, I think yes to both, right? One is that I think we always test our theories. Whatever theory we believe about life, we figure out how way to test it, even when we don't know we're testing it. So the theory was planted. You don't matter. And then you start looking at the evidence. Well, look, they don't call me. They don't invite me. They are getting together with one another, but not me. So let me test my theory. And his theory came out positive based on the theory, right? Now, could he have done things to engage and all those things with these people? Yeah. But then I say, well, you can't know what you don't know. I mean, he wasn't taught how to be nurtured. He wasn't taught how to nurture a relationship. So I don't know if you have the skill set to do so. So it really is just testing the information I do have. I don't have that other information.
Oh, I like that. Okay, that's fair. You don't know what you don't know, right?
Yeah.
And I think that Dr. Marr is onto something, and I'm going to drag this in, even though I know Dennis might be a little resistant to it. But you were talking to us about a relationship that you have recently just ended. And I'm wondering if there isn't a correlation here about not understanding how to nurture a relationship or understand how to be nurtured, right? Because of the relationship that you were in, you seemed to be the one that was trying to keep this together, and the other person, seemed like they were sitting by again idly. Am I correlating you guys, or am I completely off my rocker?
Oh no, I think you're completely on track.
I think that's a very astute observation.
Okay, so let's just give the audience a little bit of a background. Can you give us the cameo version of the relationship?
Well, it was someone that I was with for 7 years, and essentially, it was a situation where I put my all in. I ended up doing everything, paying for everything. I had to plan everything, and she just sat idly waiting for something to happen, which is her own issue. And then I broke up with her a year ago, and she had to move out. And then about like beginning of January, I actually ran into her again, which was kind of odd. And then I ran into her again 2 weeks ago, and then she showed up on my house 3 times this week because she's moving back east with her family. And I essentially had to say to her yesterday that I can't do this. I can't, if you're going, then you just need to just go and let it be that. And that was it.
So I'm going to give a little background. I'll give a little background. So I've been reading for you for a few years now.
Yeah.
And we knew that this relationship wasn't going to work because, as we coined it at the time, you felt like she was a taker and you were a giver. And so the way that you set yourself up to nurture is you paid for everything, you did everything. And a lot of men don't know how to nurture and don't know how to be nurtured, just like what Dr. Mari said. And so they have a tendency, and women too, it's not gender specific, but women and men both get into relationships like this where they give and they give and they give. But they actually aren't really giving of themselves. They're giving in very physical ways. They're giving money. They're giving support. They're taking care of the other person in so many ways, and not even emotionally. We miss the emotional connections. Dr. Mari, am I on to something here?
No, you are. You're good.
Okay. And so many times we feel very used by these people because we're putting in the effort while they are sucking all of our energy. I mean, they just literally suck space, right? And then we become resentful. And I think the reason we become resentful is because we never really understood how to connect with somebody emotionally and how to give and receive in that way. So I think that the topic of conversation here, just as feeling that you didn't matter and you make yourself matter, men and women, when we give and give until it hurts. When the truth is that we're not connecting emotionally. We think we are. So I think that the real nut of this podcast is to ask Dr. Mari, when we find ourselves, and this is going to be a generalization, it's not going to be specific to anybody except really Dennis, for the sake of the podcast. When Dennis finds himself in a situation, because I can hear it in your voice. I mean, your voice dropped when you started to talk about her, and I could hear your pain. I could feel your pain. And what I heard was, I gave every stinking thing I had until you couldn't get anything more out of me. And now I'm spent. What did I do wrong? And I think that this could really help all of us if Dr. Mari would address, how do we actually heal ourselves to get to a place where we can connect in a relationship and understand what real give and take is emotionally, right? And connectedly, instead of us taking every single penny we have and giving our car and all the other things that we do. How do we actually get down to that when we have felt so either invalidated or that we didn't matter? and that we're invisible, because a lot of times kids do feel invisible. So what do we do when we feel invisible or we don't matter? Well, we try and get attention. How? Well, in this case, by giving until it hurt. So Doc Mari, what you got to say?
There's a couple things that kind of came to mind as you both were talking. One is that we tend to give love the way we want to receive it. So there is something to understanding how I give. That's important to know. It's not bad. It just might do it with the wrong person, right? So he's going to be a gifts guy. That's okay, right? It's okay to give people nice things. It's okay to take care of the bills as long as the other person is reciprocating in some way. It might not be the same way because they might receive love a different way, right? So the selflessness out of love is I give out of how you experience love, not how I experience love. Where we see selflessness is I'm just going to give how I give until it hurts. That's not selfless. That's actually selfish, right? Am I making sense?
No, I don't understand that. How is that selfish?
Because it's all about me getting love from you. It's really not about me just giving love to you.
Okay, you're giving to get.
You're
giving to receive.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So that is selfish.
Really,
okay.
It's really all about me, really, and it's not in a malicious way. This is how I experience love, and if I keep giving it to you the way I experience it, at some point you're going to give it back to me. I know you are, but the reality is, being selfless is saying I'm going to love you the way you need to be loved, not the way I love. So I'm coming out of self and getting into you. So I'll use an example. So there's a book called The 5 Love Languages, and it talks about these different languages. And I like to keep things very simple. So it's just 5. It's real easy to do, right? So let's say somebody is an acts of service person. That means they like to do things for people. They'll come cut your grass, and they'll clean your house, and those type of things. And someone's a words of affirmation person. They need to hear you look nice, you're pretty, words, right? But the person who's the acts of service, they're gonna come over and do all the things you could possibly need done in the house, and then say, "Hey, look what I did! Didn't I do good?" And the words of affirmation person will say, "You did a great job," because they're words of affirmation person, but they're not going to go over to the acts of service person's house and do anything because they just love them the way they're supposed to be loved. They want to be loved. If that makes sense. So the words person is going to give words. The acts of service person is going to give acts of service. They're speaking 2 different languages, right? So if an acts of service person is going to love the words of affirmation person, they're not going to do things for them. They're going to say nice words, even if it doesn't feel natural to them. And the words person is not going to just say nice words. They're going to go over and do something tangible for the acts of service person, even if that's not natural for them. That's where they become selfless.
So that's the give and take where people do something even when it's not in their nature necessarily, right? Or their behavioral wheelhouse. Yeah.
It's actually about communicating, because you have to communicate that to one another and then say, okay, this is not what I need, but this is what the other person needs. So I'm going to do that.
I totally understand that. The biggest challenge is that I could never get out of her what she needed.
Again, this is also about being with the person who's able to do this in return.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where the self-love comes in, is that I'm only going to love someone who already loves themselves too, right? I'm only going to give myself to a person who also can give to me, because I deserve that. I deserve someone who can give to me the way I give to other people. Not in the same manner. We're talking about true give and take is coming out of self.
And you're right, that makes sense. This is why Dennis has pain, is because he gave and gave until it hurt, hoping that eventually he'd be able to get to the other side.
He'd unlock something in her that would be able to make her come and give out of herself too.
Yes.
But she could not. And she cannot right now.
You cannot give what you do not have.
You cannot give what you do not have, right? And so part of it is, this is the interesting thing about you, Dennis, is that you can do this in friendships with women. It only happens when there's a meaningful relationship that's one-on-one, when I truly have to give and that person truly has to give to me, that it becomes a problem. So the skill set's there. The block is how I feel about myself.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to learn how to do this. You already know how to do this. You do it already. It's just taking that and saying, okay, how do I do this to me? How do I give myself what I'm willing to give everyone else? Grace, permission to fail, not knowing, all these different things that you were able to give to her. that hurt you at the end, you haven't given to yourself.
Which will actually help catapult you from where you are to where you want to be as far as manifestation goes.
Mm-hmm.
Because you originally had really wanted to talk about how do I manifest what I want financially without having to go to DEFCON 5 and do it at the 11th hour and then it all comes together, which we've discussed before is a little bit exciting to you because that's your pattern and along with many other things. But what Dr. Mari is actually the point she's making as far as manifestation goes is very powerful. When we can give to ourselves what we give to others in relationships, it can become so empowering that the focus goes back on ourselves. The focus goes back on what it is that we really want, what we really desire, not what we think we want. And that's why I had you write down what you want. There's a difference between what you think you want and what you truly want deep down within, right? And I think what you really want is to love and care for yourself in a way where you take care of yourself in a lifestyle where you're exceptionally comfortable, where you feel secure, where you feel safe. And that's what you were looking for, I believe, in this relationship. And you gave and gave and gave. Does that ring true for you?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. That is the sense that that's what I get intuitively. And I think that, the trick to manifestation is to focus on what it is that you want. But you have to know what you want by the way that you feel. It can't feel vacant. It can't have anxiety behind it. You have to know. And I think I just gave you that in a nutshell, right? And then the next part is to not hold on to it, but to let it go. And the way that we let it go is that we know. And so we say the part of letting go is the know. And people go, well, what do I know? Well, you have to know what you know within. You know within. It's like, God, I want to be comfortable. I want to feel secure. I want to feel safe. I want to feel like I have actually accomplished something, that I am somebody, that I'm not invisible, that I matter. And when you begin to look at self and see, one day here's a perfect example. It was something simple. I was doing this all day. I took an all day for me to look at the looping in my own brain and try to get that hamster off the wheel. And when I was done that night, I looked in the mirror and I said, you're probably one of the most interesting people that I've ever gotten to know because the shit that goes on in my head, right, just makes me, seriously, it can make me crazy or it can bring me to incredible heights and it can be inspiring. And I want to inspire. And you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
When we can shut down what Dr. Mari said, I can't remember what you said, Mari, but people think, it's drowning out the bad, and it's replacing it with the good. It's like, no, that doesn't work. People talk about manifestation as if, you're just going to say these words and it's magically going to happen. Well, maybe if you're trying to attract a $5 bill, but when we're talking about real life changes, real prosperity, real abundance, it is the conjuring of feeling. It is stating it over and over again, but it's also looking at the ugly devil inside, because if there's a demon within, there's going to be a demon without. If there's no demon within you, you ain't going to find a demon outside you. It's recognizing, wait a second, I can give this to myself. I don't have to give this to somebody else. And that's not selfish. That's actually, I think, a very nurturing thing. How can I do this for myself? For example, I know you like to play the stock market. How can I have this job that I have? And what can I do? How can I study? How can I look at the stocks differently? How could I use my intuition? I'm going to trust. I'm going to know. I'm not going to go on angst. I'm going to go on knowing. And I'm going to play this stock. And then it works. And you give to yourself and you pat yourself on the back. And what you find when you go out into the world is people respond to you the same way. You also begin to give more. You see what I'm saying? When we give to ourselves, we
Yes.
give to others. We're better.
Yeah. There's a study out that people are more attracted to people who take care of themselves, to attractive people, but not necessarily aesthetically attractive, but like a good haircut, a nice suit, all these different things, right? And it's not, I think that person's successful. It is that person takes care of themselves. I want to be with them versus the guy who looks a little gruff, just came from the gym, maybe a little sweaty. He may have more money than the guy who's neatly dressed, but we automatically just are attracted to that image. And so it's kind of like the fact that you're able to nurture this woman to your destruction, right? But if you nurtured yourself to that same place, not the same place of destruction, but the same amount of nurturing, you still have money that you gave to her and emotions that you didn't have to give and expend to her, you would be able to give to someone who actually can receive those. You would be more attractive. So if you nurture yourself, you become that attractive force that pulls in women or money or whatever that further encourage you to continue on that path to more money, to more, not women, but more relationships that are meaningful, whatever that looks like.
That's it. That's it in a nutshell. That's exactly what you're looking for. So when we go back to what I originally said, Dennis, I said, I want you to write down what you want. Can you sort of see why what we think we want isn't really what we want?
Oh, yeah. Well, that was the one thing that I discovered. It was like I took all week to think about that question. I finally wrote it down this morning, and the answers, and it was completely different than what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. And then we say, why do you want what you want? And then that changes. Your why changes. And then what is the obstacle that stands in between you and what you want? It's like my beliefs, my thoughts, my feelings, my past, myself. I'm in my own way. And if that isn't the most empowering thing in the world, right? Because blaming somebody else for your problems is disempowering, right? I always say that if you're blaming, you're gaming. You're gaming somebody else and you're giving your power away. But when we can actually say, oh my God, it's within inside of us. I have the power to change this. Okay, I need to sit and I need to think about this. And that's why manifestation, there are things you can manifest in a heartbeat. And there are other things, it takes time. But it's worth it. It's an investment in yourself that is so worth it and will pay off in the future that it's priceless. The things that are free, right, are the most priceless things. You can think, you can speak, you can move, you can act, you can do, you can feel, and you can control them. Those are all free. And that's where our power lies, is within ourselves.
Exactly.
And I have to add that you have to remove the but. So one thing that we talked about earlier, you were saying, I want a meaningful relationship, but it doesn't matter, or something like that. I was like, whoa, those are very contradictory statements. So anytime we have the but's going to be a contradictory statement to what we just said. So we have to remove the buts out of our life. I want a meaningful relationship, period. Or I want a meaningful relationship, and it does matter. Now, and it does matter is the vulnerability of what if it doesn't happen, right? But we're not saying it's not going to happen. We say it just matters.
Yeah.
And so if it matters, I go for it. If it's meaningful, I go for it. If it doesn't matter, I don't, even though I said I want it. So we have to remove the buts.
Do you think, Doc, that what we do is we try to protect ourselves from failure when we say, I want a meaningful relationship, but, and then there's a protective mechanism there.
Yeah.
It really, the message it sends to the universe is, I'm going to give you half of that. Because basically you're saying I'm only worth half of that. And one of the most powerful statements ever is, I won't settle. I'm not going to settle. I'm going to get what I want. I'm doing this. It's within me. I can do it. I have the power to do it. I'm going to get what I want. That is very, very powerful when you feel it within your being. Most people go, I want this. And they conjure in their minds what they want, or they want the perfect person. And they say, but if this comes, I'll take that too. Well, that's probably what you're going to get because you just lowered your standards. It's what you believe you deserve. Yeah.
And so to answer your question, yes, it is. It's definitely limiting. It limits or it omits. It's one of the two. It doesn't add at all. So yeah, we're trying to protect ourselves. But I'm not the manifestor. I do the psychology part. But what I do know is that when you want something and you're trying to go after it, you are vulnerable to failure. That's required. Vulnerability to failure is required to get what you want. Absolutely required. And so the defense mechanism has to go away because you have to be vulnerable to even move towards what you want. Does that make sense?
That totally makes sense. And what I think, and if I can add to that, being vulnerable to failure isn't failure. Because you're never going to fail as long as you continue to stay vulnerable to what you want. You're just not. You're going to keep picking yourself up and you're always going to be a winner. Love is the same way.
Exactly.
Love is making yourself vulnerable enough to allow the other person to hurt you. We talk about that a lot in podcasts.
Right.
It
So
is
it's
what
not,
it
yeah,
is.
it's not failure, but it's we coin it failure because we're afraid of that. We're afraid of the failure. And it's just the building block to success, really. That's what it is when things don't work out, let's say, right? That doesn't stop the manifestation. It means that you manifested the lesson you needed to get to the next lesson. You manifested the next thing you need to put into the toolbox to get to where you're actually going if you remove the buts and you let yourself be vulnerable to failure.
Yeah, it's sort of like, well, that didn't work. Thomas Edison, Nikola Tesla, all those guys, well, that didn't work. But it didn't ever stop them. They kept going. They knew what they knew.
Right. Well, you never go back to square one. If you're building something and it takes you have to go all the way to Z to build it, and A through Y worked, why would you go back to A? You just go back to Y. Okay, Y is where it went wrong. I'm only one step away. But a lot of us will throw everything away and start at A because Y didn't work.
It's very true. And all we have to do is turn around and take a look at why. And it's kind of interesting. It's the letter Y and the question why, right? It's a good analogy,
Right. We don't have to,
right?
yeah.
But you look at that, and if you can just turn around and look at the why, it'll give you the answer.
But do not go back to A. You've done it. Yeah.
And she just said it. She said, "Don't give up. You don't give up. You don't, right. You don't go back to, yeah, you know what? I'm a total loser. I knew it." You're not a loser. Anybody that gets up every day and puts their effort in, they're not losers. When we do fall, I always say to people, I want 100% commitment when we do our workshops. And that's scary for people, but I'm not asking you to commit 100% and hold on like you're white knuckling it. I want you to commit 100% to what you want in your dreams, because that's the only thing that's going to hold you up when you fall down and fall flat on your face. You're going to get back up because it's your dream. It's what's inside you. And that's why I try to say to somebody, you got to live the life you love, not somebody else's life, your life. And Dennis, if we can go back to what we were talking about with your sisters and your ex-girlfriend, in many ways, you were living the life they wanted you to live, because we get caught up in our own mental looping, right? Psychologically, we're saying the same things over and over again. And all Mari and I did was give you a different perspective. And if you can shift your perspective, you can see how you can change anything by a simple shift like that. And that's the power of psychology and using intuition and some of the psychic metaphysical tools.
Yeah, I mean, if I treat myself the way I've been treating others, then that will make an incredible difference in my
Dude,
life.
you'll be like a king. Yeah. I mean,
You'll
you
be
treated
oozing
her.
in swag, as the kids say.
Wait, say that again. You'll be what?
You'll be oozing in swag.
Yeah, because you treated them very well. It was yourself that you weren't paying attention to because of looking for that outer validation, that outer need. And now that you know, okay, wait a second, if I turn this within, if you do the things for yourself that you were doing for them, you'll turn around and think, this is really great. At one point you even get to the place where you go, oh, I don't know, do I want to open my life up to that? And that's where you say, yes, I do, to the right person. Not to anybody.
You won't even accept anything less than how you treat yourself. You would see those people a mile away and say, "Oh, no, 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 you are not going to disrupt my peace." And then you also will see the one that you know is not going to disrupt your peace and say, "Wow, wow." Because she's going to thank you when you open the door. She's going to thank you when you buy her something. She's going to say, "No, no, no, don't buy me anything. I'm good." Or if you buy her something, she's buying you something just to keep up with you. Do you see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You'll see that person too.
Or she'll take out the trash.
Yes.
Yeah, those little teeny tiny simple things, and sweep the floor maybe, and vacuum sometimes.
That's actually was the funny thing. What I was looking at, it was let's just do small things together. That's good enough.
Right. And that's the thing. You deserve even the small things. You deserve the big things too, but the small things you absolutely deserve. So you won't have to beg anyone to do that. This person will come and do that because you're enough. That's it. And they want to prove to you that they're enough as well.
Yeah, you just said it, Dr. Mari. You're enough. You're enough. All right. Thank you for joining me today, Dennis, Dr. Mari. It was a great session. Look forward to having you guys join us again.